An acceptable alternating current disconnect location is crucial for safety and compliance. The key requirement is that the disconnect must be readily accessible and within sight of the air conditioning condensing unit. This ensures that anyone working on the equipment can quickly and easily de-energize it to prevent electrical hazards. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, sets the standards for electrical installations, including the placement of disconnects. While the NEC doesn't specify an exact maximum distance for the disconnect, the within sight requirement effectively limits how far it can be. Within sight generally means that the disconnect is visible from the location of the equipment, without the use of binoculars or other aids. A distance of 50 feet may or may not be acceptable, depending on the specific circumstances. Several factors can affect visibility, including obstructions such as walls, fences, trees, and changes in elevation. If the disconnect is not visible from the condensing unit due to any of these obstructions, it is not considered to be within sight and therefore does not meet the NEC requirements. Furthermore, the disconnect must be readily accessible. This means that it must be located in a place where it can be easily reached without having to climb over obstacles, move equipment, or use tools. The disconnect should not be located behind locked doors, in enclosed spaces, or in areas that are difficult to access. The purpose of the readily accessible requirement is to ensure that the disconnect can be quickly operated in an emergency. If the disconnect is located inside the house, it is generally not considered acceptable. This is because it is not within sight of the condensing unit and may not be readily accessible. In addition, locating the disconnect inside the house can create a safety hazard, as it may not be easily accessible to someone working on the equipment outside. The NEC requires that the disconnect be located externally, typically near the condensing unit. This allows for easy access and visibility, ensuring that the equipment can be safely de-energized. To determine whether a distance of 50 feet is acceptable, consider these factors. Firstly, visibility. Is the disconnect clearly visible from the condensing unit, without any obstructions? If the answer is no, the distance is not acceptable. Secondly, accessibility. Can the disconnect be easily reached without any obstacles or difficulties? If the answer is no, the distance is not acceptable. Thirdly, local codes. Check with your local building department or electrical inspector to see if there are any specific requirements for disconnect locations in your area. Some jurisdictions may have stricter requirements than the NEC. Here are some general guidelines for locating an alternating current disconnect. 1. The disconnect should be located within sight of the condensing unit. 2. The disconnect should be readily accessible. 3. The disconnect should be located externally near the condensing unit. 4. The disconnect should be protected from the elements. 5. The disconnect should be properly labeled. 6. The disconnect should be installed according to the NEC and local codes. If you are unsure about the proper location for an alternating current disconnect, consult with a qualified electrician. An electrician can assess your specific situation and ensure that the disconnect is installed in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations. They can also help you choose the right type of disconnect for your equipment and ensure that it is properly sized and installed. In addition to the location requirements, there are also specific requirements for the type of disconnect that must be used. The disconnect must be rated for the voltage and current of the equipment it is serving. It must also be suitable for the environment in which it is located. For example, if the disconnect is located outdoors, it must be weatherproof. The NEC specifies the types of disconnects that are acceptable for various applications. It is important to choose the right type of disconnect to ensure that it will properly protect the equipment and prevent electrical hazards. Here are some common types of alternating current disconnects. Firstly, non-fused disconnects. These disconnects simply interrupt the flow of current to the equipment. They do not provide any overcurrent protection. Secondly, fused disconnects. These disconnects provide both overcurrent protection and a means of disconnecting the equipment. They are typically used for larger equipment that requires overload protection. Thirdly, circuit breakers. Circuit breakers can also be used as disconnects. They provide both overcurrent protection and a means of disconnecting the equipment. Circuit breakers are typically used for smaller equipment that does not require a separate disconnect. When selecting a disconnect, it is important to consider the following factors. 1. The voltage and current rating of the equipment. 2. The environment in which the disconnect will be located. 3. The type of overcurrent protection required. 4. The local codes and regulations. A qualified electrician can help you choose the right disconnect for your specific application. They can also ensure that it is properly installed and wired. Proper installation and wiring are essential for the safe and reliable operation of the disconnect. Incorrect installation or wiring can create a safety hazard and damage the equipment. Therefore, it is important to hire a qualified electrician to perform the installation. The electrician will ensure that the disconnect is properly grounded, that the wiring is properly sized and connected, and that all connections are tight and secure. They will also test the disconnect to ensure that it is working properly. Regular maintenance is also important for ensuring the safe and reliable operation of the disconnect. The disconnect should be inspected periodically for any signs of damage or wear. The connections should be checked to ensure that they are tight and secure. The disconnect should also be cleaned to remove any dirt or debris. If any problems are found, they should be corrected immediately. A qualified electrician can perform the necessary maintenance and repairs. By following these guidelines, you can ensure that your alternating current disconnect is properly located, installed, and maintained. This will help to protect your equipment and prevent electrical hazards. Remember to always consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions or concerns about alternating current disconnects. They can provide you with the information and guidance you need to ensure that your electrical system is safe and compliant with all applicable codes and regulations. The National Electrical Code Article 440.14 provides guidance on disconnecting means. It states that a disconnecting means shall be located within sight from and readily accessible from the air conditioning or refrigerating equipment. The disconnecting means shall be permitted to be installed on or within the equipment. The term within sight from is defined in Article 100 of the NEC as being visible and not more than 50 feet distant from one another. The readily accessible requirement means that the disconnect must be easily reached without the need to climb over obstacles or use tools. The intent of these requirements is to ensure that a person working on the air conditioning or refrigerating equipment can quickly and easily disconnect the power to the equipment in case of an emergency or for maintenance purposes. The disconnecting means must be suitable for interrupting the voltage and current of the equipment it serves. It must also be clearly labeled to indicate its purpose. The disconnecting means can be a switch, a circuit breaker, or other approved device. It must be rated for the voltage and current of the equipment it serves. The disconnecting means must be readily accessible to qualified persons. It must be located in a place where it can be easily reached without the need to climb over obstacles or use tools. The disconnecting means must be marked to indicate its purpose. The marking must be durable and easily readable. The disconnecting means must be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. It must be properly grounded and bonded to prevent electrical shock. Here are some additional considerations for locating the disconnecting means. The disconnecting means should be located in a place where it is protected from physical damage. It should not be located in a place where it is exposed to moisture or other corrosive substances. The disconnecting means should be located in a place where it is not likely to be accidentally disconnected. The disconnecting means should be located in a place where it is easily visible and accessible. It's important to note that local codes may have additional requirements for disconnecting means. Be sure to check with your local building department or electrical inspector for specific requirements in your area. Failure to comply with these requirements can result in fines or other penalties. If you are unsure about the proper location or installation of a disconnecting means, it is best to consult with a qualified electrician. An electrician can assess your specific situation and ensure that the disconnecting means is installed in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations. The NEC Section 440.14 emphasizes the importance of having a readily accessible disconnect within sight of the air conditioning equipment. This is a critical safety measure that allows technicians to quickly de-energize the equipment during maintenance or emergencies. The 50-foot distance limitation is a general guideline, but the within-sight requirement is paramount. Obstructions, such as walls or landscaping, can make a 50-foot distance unacceptable if the disconnect is not clearly visible. Accessibility is another key factor. The disconnect should not be located behind locked doors or in areas that require special tools or equipment to reach. It should be easily accessible to anyone who may need to disconnect the power to the air conditioning unit. The location of the disconnect should also be considered in relation to potential hazards. For example, it should not be located in an area where it could be easily damaged by vehicles or other equipment. The disconnect should also be protected from the elements such as rain and snow. In some cases, it may be necessary to install a weatherproof enclosure to protect the disconnect from the environment. The type of disconnect used will depend on the size and voltage of the air conditioning equipment. For smaller units, a simple toggle switch may be sufficient. For larger units, a fused disconnect switch or a circuit breaker may be required. The disconnect should be rated for the voltage and current of the equipment it serves. It should also be UL listed or otherwise approved for use in the application. The installation of the disconnect should be performed by a qualified electrician. The electrician will ensure that the disconnect is properly wired and grounded. They will also test the disconnect to ensure that it is working properly. Regular maintenance is essential to ensure the continued safe and reliable operation of the disconnect. The disconnect should be inspected periodically for any signs of damage or wear. The connections should be checked to ensure that they are tight and secure. The disconnect should also be cleaned to remove any dirt or debris. If any problems are found, they should be corrected immediately. By following these guidelines, you can ensure that your air conditioning disconnect is properly located, installed, and maintained. This will help to protect your equipment and prevent electrical hazards. Remember to always consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions or concerns about air conditioning disconnects. They can provide you with the information and guidance you need to ensure that your electrical system is safe and compliant with all applicable codes and regulations. Also, remember that the location inside the house is almost always not acceptable.